Oh my god. Hey, you two. I see you were seeing me make a mistake at the very beginning of my video. That's pretty good. I'm just going to leave that one in there. So, let's start all over. Hello, YouTube, and welcome to a tutorial on Star Sonata 2, brought to you by YipperX5, and of course this wonderful game called Star Sonata 2. Today we're going to talk about slaves. Slaves are awesome. Slaves do all kinds of things. They're vastly useful in this world. You can do so much with them. Well, actually, you can typically only do 2 or 3 things with them. There are 2 types of slaves. There's combat and trade slaves. But before we get into that, you're probably asking me, Yipper, what the heck is a slave? How do you do this? What is it? What does it do? Well, I'm glad you asked. I'm going to try and simplify it and make a good little video for you guys to understand. So, let's first start off by docking in this AI base. We are in the galaxy Paxius, which is located in the Earth Force layer. Now, the reason I chose Paxius is because it carries one of the ships that I really like to use on lower level characters when I'm fighting big stuff that's kind of scary and you can't fight it by yourself. Especially when you're in a ship that has no weapons on it and is just healing and set up to be defensive. I actually set this up to be we'll talk about that here in a second. So let's start off by going to the Ships tab and selecting a ship we want to use. Now, I went ahead and made a few of these to begin with, but I'm going to pick the Paximenes. The Paximenes is small, it's relatively cheap, it's low tech, and it has a lot of hull space. Some of the interesting stats are, it starts out with 280 hull space. That's quite a bit for a low level. It's not terribly slow at 85 speed, it's kind of small, has 2 augmenters, 2 weapons can be equipped to it. Now it has a couple of nice items built in. One of them is the Paximenes charger. Now that's not the greatest charger, but it'll do for what we need. And then the other is the Paxian Salvation. This is basically like a shield regeneration tweak slash resistance tweak. So what it does is it makes it tanky for a little bit, especially when it gets down to about half shields or so, I think is when it uses it. I'm not 100% sure when it's supposed to use it. They're kind of weird. It's got some decent resistances across the board. It's not particularly stealthy, but that's not really what we're interested in. It also comes with a built-in 20% more shields because Landauer Games loves us, and that's amazing. So, this is the ship we're going to be using. Now, it's about 1.4 mil, which isn't terribly hard to get. You do kill a few AI, you'll have that much money, no problem, off stuff that they drop. So let's start off over here. We're going to start off by building a combat slave. Now, in order to have a slave, you need a couple of things. For starters, you need this skill right here called remote control. The ability to control slave ships. Also gives 1500 max shields to your slaves per level. So at 10, that would give you 15,000 more shields. That's awesome. Very awesome. So we're going to be getting a nice little bonus because we have our RC up to level 14. I'll go over a couple of places you can get to this in the comment section or in the description section of the video down here. So let's get started. For starters, how do you make a slave? Well, you need this combat control bot for a combat slave, and for a trade slave, you need a trade control bot. Simple, right? Now there's a bunch of different types, but we're going to keep it simple for this one. Let's start off making a combat slave. So, for starters, we picked our ship. Now, what do we want to put on our ship? Let's pick some weapons first. Most of you guys are going to be pretty low level when you're making yours, so I'll try to stick to lower level gear just to keep it simple for you. Now, with only 2 weapon slots, you don't have a huge diversity in the types of damage you can do, so I try to pick a couple that are pretty broad. There's a few variations here. Typically, surgical, mining, and radiation are some good types. If you are a fleet commander of the fleet focus, then you should pick radiation because your slaves will get 100% more damage whenever you max out the radiation expert skill with radiation weapons. But that doesn't matter at lower levels. I just do it because, every little bit kind of helps. And plus, it's neat because you can capture the 3rd type of slave, which is called wild slaves. Now, we'll go over that in a little bit. So let's pick surgical and mining. That seems like two pretty good specs. Both of these weapons are relatively decent. They use a lot of electricity, and well, this one does, so it's kind of a bursty thing, but you need it for some of the things that we're going to be fighting. But they're really low range. They probably won't use them that often, but that's for just in case. And the mining lasers are pretty decent. They have a good rate of fire. They do a little bit. They do pretty good damage, and they have an okay range. So I mean, it's not a completely terrible idea to put these on there. Another good choice would be mag cannons, pulse guns, but projectile weapons typically aren't very good for slaves just because they don't. They can usually hit with their pulses and things like that, but they're not the best at aiming. I do not recommend ever putting the well, we call them Linsen style weapons, but basically any self-damaging weapons. Like this one fires 3 projectiles doing 60 damage each, but it does 60 damage to yourself, which is pretty not okay if you ask me. Now, we're going to do mining and surgical. So that's a pretty good basis for what we want to do. Now, let's pick a shield. I'm going to stick to around Tech 4 because that's what most of you guys are going to be at. You're going to be probably, I don't know, you could probably get up to about 5 or so, but we'll just say 4 for now. Um, we'll pick a pink envelope because it's got some good regen. It's not terribly big, doesn't use a lot of electricity, and it has a good regen, so that's not bad. We have our shield. Let's pick an engine. Aerozest is probably good, or maybe the Glissom. Then I'll pick the Aerozest in case something wants to try and push or pull them away, so that they have a little bit of fighting power. Let's go to equipment. Let's see, we want to pick Tech 4-ish equipment. Let's make sure we're not missing anything important. Probably a hull extension would be nice. Give us a little bit more hull space. Solar panels, there we go. Now, there's a formula to figure out how many solar panel slots a ship has. I don't remember what it is off the top of my head, but I think it has something to do with the size of the ship. So Pax Minus is size 45, so it can probably have around 4 slots, maybe. I'm not 100% on that one, but let's try it. Let's buy one, equip. Buy another one, equip. This is usually how I do it, just to make sure that I don't buy too many, because you can buy a large stack of these. And one more. Let's see what happens. Nope, can't equip it. Limit 4. Okay, that's fine. And the reason I bought these solar panels is because whenever we're in a bright sun galaxy, we'll get a little bit extra recharge. Whenever you're in a dark sun galaxy, I think it counteracts it, but not enough to really matter. So you should probably just stay out of dark sun galaxies if you want to do that. Or you can use anti-panels, which I'm not 100% sure where to get those, but they're like dark sun panels. They work off that, which is kind of an odd concept if you ask me. That's fine. So a couple of important things that you need on your ships, on all your ships actually, is an exterminator. Exterminators are important. Typically you can use like an ace pest controller whenever you get to a higher tech level, but for this one we're going to use the Exterminator Pros because they are lower level and not bad to use. If you're going to be fighting AI that are using heat weapons, I recommend a fire extinguisher. Now that's kind of expensive at 5 million, but it gets rid of fires pretty quick. So fires are not good. They just do damage over time, and sometimes they spread, sometimes they don't go out very quick, which is very odd because you think you could just open your cargo hatch or whatever and just let the vacuum of space destroy the fire. But no, that's not how it works. So we'll just say that is a good option. Not completely necessary, but a good option. You don't need to buy a charger because you have the built-in Paxi Minus charger. We're going to put a scoop on this. Now, the cool thing about combat slaves is they can actually scoop debris for you. You just drag a box around them and right click on the debris and it'll go scoop it for you, which is always pretty nice because these things have a lot of hull space. And these things have a lot of hull space because I'm an engineer. So yours won't have that much hull space. Keep that in mind. Let's see. You can put a tractor on them, but I see that as sort of a waste of electricity, in all honesty. You don't need base gear. We need an energy source, though. What kind of energy source are we going to use? We have the cyanotic fission, which has a 400 bank and 85 regen. I don't know if I like that. It does improve your shield by 25% and turning by 25%, so that would kind of counteract the arrow zest a little bit and make it just a little bit better. But then again, there's also this, which is the Quantum Bank. It has 3000 reservoir, 5 less regen, and improves elect tempering minus 20%. What that means is your weapons are going to use 20% less energy when you fire them. So, all in all, this is pretty good because this thing uses 184 energy to fire its weapon. So, it using 30-ish less elect is pretty good. That means it'll get to fire a few more times. The X Surgical on the other hand uses almost 500, so it's going to use about 100 less energy, a little bit less than 100. So that's pretty good too. That adds up quite a lot when you get to fighting big things. So go ahead and double click that to buy it. Oh, a fancy thing I should tell you guys about. If you double click something while it's in your ship, it'll sell it back. So you can use the buy and sell, buy max, sell max. I don't recommend those when you're buying an energy or a shield or any equipment like that, but that's just so you know. Now, it needs to see, so we're going to get a revealer on it. You can put a cloak on it. Once again, I see this as a waste of electricity, especially since the ship is not built for cloaking. And since I don't particularly have any good augmenters on here right now that I can put for this guy, so we'll just go the easy route. This is the easy route I see. Since we don't get any energy bonuses to him, we can use these augmenter plugs, which add 30% more energy. We'll go ahead and buy 2 of those because this ship has 2 augmenter slots. So right now we have 3300 energy. If we equip these, then that takes our bank up to 5487. Now that's a pretty big difference if you ask me. That's an extra 2000 energy. That means this other thing down here can fire like almost 10 more times. That's pretty good. Now, in the grand scheme of things, these slaves are not going to be particularly good. Not by themselves. They are very susceptible to taking damage. They don't do a lot of DPS. Like if you look at when we're piloting it, it's actually pretty quick. Oh my goodness. Oh, it's because I'm an engineer. So disregard that speed a little bit. We have our X surgical laser. As you can see, it can fire quite a bit, but because of our regen, we're only losing 180 energy a second. Now, keep in mind that I'm not getting a lot of regen because I'm only at 79. It's probably because the panels are equipped. Let's see what happens. Yeah, it goes up a little bit whenever the panels are unequipped. But as you can see, in a dark sun galaxy, they don't lose a lot of elect. And whenever we get into a bright galaxy, they're going to have a lot of energy. So, not enough to be able to power that, but you know what I'm saying. It's not the worst. And here's the mining laser. What they're basically going to do is they're going to want to fly at the thing and shoot their weapons, that's cool. That works. So, we'll go ahead and dock this guy. And there's our combat slave built up. All you got to do is double click on the bot and boom, presto, you have your slave. So I built a few more, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and start those up so that you can see what they look like. So here's 3 of them. Now think, I just made 3 of those, and all 3 of them are going to go and do awesome stuff. There's the one that we just built. As you can see, they have weird names. Like this one is called CS11, and then it has parentheses and SR72. That's me. That's the character's name, and there's my ship. Because I'm an engineer, I get to use this jumping healing beam, so that was kind of the idea whenever I made this guy. Now, you can see that they're different names, CS706, and then this one's called Combat Tut, because that's what I named it. So, boom. Now you see how to make combat slaves. Let's see if we can go find an AI and kill it. Our acceptor, probably. No, I don't want to go in there. There's a lot of stuff going on in that I don't want to fight. So let's go up here and fight some AI. Some interesting things to know is when you have slaves, you get to draw this box. So you can draw a box around it, and you can click and you can make them do different moves. You can right click to make them attack things, and you can click back on yourself as soon as you can find the middle of your ship, and they will go back to following you. So before we fight anything, let's go through and talk about their orders. Okay, so in order to open up this window on the right, you have to press the X key. That is X for X-ray. So I usually go up here without jumping through it because it'll change the order sometimes. Start over on the right, press the X key. You only need to do this once. You can actually switch between all of them now. And these are the things that you need to worry about the most. Fight enemies, stay close, and attack my target. Now what stay close does is it makes it stay within a certain distance of you. If it goes beyond that distance, what it's going to try and do is get closer to you. This can be a good thing and a bad thing, so you can figure out when you want to use this. The attack my target, self-explanatory. You shoot or tractor something, and that is considered a hostile act, so your slave will then go and kill that. Or go try to kill that. And then fight enemies is anything that comes in the galaxy that is an enemy of you, it will attempt to kill. I personally like to leave stay close off and attack my target, but since I'm in this type of ship, it doesn't really matter. And since I'm going to be doing the RTS, which is real-time strategy, that's okay. So we're going to turn the stay close off, and they're set on follow me, and it's all good. So now what we're going to do is we're going to warp through, and we are going to attempt to find an enemy to fight. Can't really fight him because he's in Earth Force. Let's go to Brigade Stronghold. That's sure to have something. Oh, there's a couple of trade slaves right there. Leviathans. Those are huge cargo ships that go and trade lots of goods. So let's go in here, and we could pick a couple of enemies to fight in here and not have to worry about the cops getting mad at us. There's one. So what we can do is we can mark it as an enemy. And because our slaves are not set to fight enemy, they won't attack it. Now, what we can do is we can wait until it shoots me, which is what it's going to do because it hates me, and the slaves will do their best to fight it. See? That's what they're doing. And they're kicking its ass. Look at that. Whenever they get close enough to it, they use their surgical weapons, which do a lot of damage, actually, at low levels. So that's fine. So we just harvested some neat loot from this. Let's go ahead and mark this guy a team enemy. And watch the things go do their work. Look at that. Now because this is a dark galaxy, sometimes they can't see things very well. But let's go ahead and, if you put your mouse up here and let the box open up, it tells you how much elec they're using, how much shield bank and energy bank they have, and how much regen they have of either one. Since they really didn't get hit, they're fine. So that's pretty much it for combat slaves. Combat slaves are simple. They just do their thing. You can right click on things and they'll go try and kill that. That thing's probably going to warp, so yep, it did. So because it warped, they can't fight it. So that's fine. We'll warp through, and let's head back to Paxius and make ourselves some new slaves. Oh, I'm going to teach you guys about this too. So we're going to highlight all of our slaves. We're going to make them warp by clicking on that warp. Be very, very careful when doing the right clicking because a lot of times they'll just start attacking random things. And that's not necessarily a good thing. So my slaves are no longer in my galaxy. I can't draw a box. I can't see my slaves. I don't know what to do. Now this is this thing that you can do to recall them for yourself so that you don't particularly lose them. So we're going to go over here to the character tab. You can also press F9 or you can press M to open up your missions section, which will open up the same thing. You're going to go to possessions and you're going to wait for this to click. There it is. So now we see on here that we have our 3 slaves, our Paxi Menaces, in Brigade Stronghold. So what we can do is we can right click on it and click follow me. Watch what happens. There it is. Follow me, boom. Now all of them are here. Another cool thing you can do is if you have a ship that has a trade bot on it, you can double click on it. Because this one's so far away, I'm not going to make it do it. But then you could equip that trade bot right there, and the slave would come out and immediately try to follow you. Another thing that you need to keep in mind is any ships that, or any of your slaves that are combat slaves that are in a different galaxy than you, they won't attack anything. They'll just sit there and just die, pretty much, if they're getting shot at, which is no good. So now what we're going to do is we're going to go and make a trade slave so that you guys get to see what that's all about. Gonna fly down here. We're gonna go back to Paxius Prime, and we're gonna go ahead and park those guys right there so that they're not doing anything silly. And once we get to Paxius Prime, we'll do a little donut to slow down. We will dock, and we will open up our Paximinus. That's going to be our trade slave. So, I went ahead and put a trade control bot on here, but I'll show you where to buy it. Almost any AI base sells trade bots. Not any AI base sells combat bots. I actually bought these in free market. I think there are a few other places where you can go. I will go ahead and right click on this to show where you can locate these at. Blue Photon Subspace Facility sells them at 10,000. Liberty and Liberty Research sells them. Free Market sells them at the premium base only. Beta Antares has them. Copper has them at the very beginning of Copper. Butterbread sells them at 10,000. I guess it's a player station. Yeah, user base. That's a player station. So there you go. Now you know some of the places. Typically special areas will have them, so you can go to some of the special areas and try and buy them, and that's fine. Oh, we can see how much profit we made. So right now we're at 1.4 mil. So because we went out and killed some stuff, we'll go ahead and hold control and select all of these items that we do not want. And we can't sell that. And then we will click sell and see what happens. Yes, we want to sell these 7 items. Look at that. 150,000 credits. Neat. So that was pretty good for making 3 slaves for pretty cheap. That cost me probably about, I want to say 15 million or so to make those. So they're not like super expensive, so you can make them pretty easily. And trade slaves are just all about making money for you, or just moving mass amounts of quality, or mass amounts of items. So for trade slaves, you don't need a weapon, unless you're going to have them do mining. If you're going to have them do mining, then you buy a mining laser. So we're not going to do that in this one. Because it's a trade slave, typically you want it to go a little bit faster and keep as least amount of gear as possible on your ship. So I'm going to pick this slipstream because it gives 25% more speed. And we want an engine, but we don't want one to be too big, but we need some power out of it. So we can pick the Glissom. The Glissom has 700 turning and 1700 thrust. Now, we could have put the Arrow Zest on it, which has almost twice the thrust and a little bit less turning, but look at that size difference. It's twice the size. We could also use a stealth or a star feather. Words, they're difficult. And or a coal furnace, something really small and basic that will get the job done. I'm going to pick a Glissom because Glissoms are neat, and that's that. Hull extension is a possibility. So we'll put a hull extension on there just to give it more hull space. Now typically with a trade slave you don't need to go through and put solar panels and exterminators and things like that on them. They're not completely necessary because most of the time these things will be in your own galaxy. Now, because this one would maybe be running around in hostile territory, you might want to think about putting a huge bank shield on it because a bigger bank shield will give it a better chance of survival. Or if it's going to be running through an area where the AI don't particularly do a lot of damage, but they do shoot at it, you can put like a rushy healing style shield on. So this one has a lot of bank, but then it's going to need a lot of elect regen to be able to power that. So, it's kind of a balancing act. Keep in mind you don't need a lot of bank in your shield because your remote control skill gives it a bunch of shield bank, which is really neat. So we're just going to stick to the slipstream for now, just to kind of show you how it's going to be. We already put our equipment on there. You don't need a scoop because trade slaves cannot scoop things. You don't need a tractor. Base gear is self-explanatory. You don't need that. As for this, you don't really need that powerful of an energy. So we'll just pick this, which is the core power, which is really small in size. And we'll do what we needed to do. Maybe, I don't know. Cold fusion? No, that doesn't do anything special. Sometimes I like to pick one that gives it bonus turning or something like that, so that it can, have a little bit more agility. Radar is not super mandatory, but I mean, if you want it to be able to see things, then it's good. So sometimes, you can put whatever radar you want on it. It's not the most important thing. Revealer should be fine. Considering our attack level, it's not that much. Now, a cloak. Cloaks can be good on trade slaves. Makes them a little bit stealthier, and they get you. If you get lucky, and you scoop a cloak, it could have a mod on it that could be like making it faster or give it more hull space. It may even make the cloak smaller, like miniaturized. Transcendental gives it more hull space, and sleek are mods that are good for slaves that give you more speed. So all of the items you have on there, if you could get sleek and transcendental on them, that would be really good for your trade slave because it'd make it faster and make it have more hull space. So that is our trade slave in a nutshell. That's it. That's all we need. We don't need any augmenter plugs because this is just going to be trading goods. So we're going to do the same thing with the other one. Double click on the trade bot and undock. And as you can see up here in the window, you can see your trade slave. There it is. Now let's show some information on this. Currently has 0 credits. It's using 42 out of 788 slaves. Okay, I guess I should explain this one too. Pay no attention to the stats you're seeing. They're going to be different for you. The reason mine are this high and yours probably won't be unless you get the skill is I have the Merchant Fleet Master, which is a trade skill located in free market. That's for pay-to-plays only. So you don't have to worry about that. That does not mean that you're going to have a terrible, you shouldn't make these things because it's going to be pointless. No, that just means, as a premium, I get some bonuses to things like that. All it does is make them faster and have more hull space, if I remember correctly. So that's an incentive to look towards. They get 2% to most stats, 10% more capacity, and 10% max shields, which is nice. Freighters get 5% capacity and a 1 extra slave order. That's cool. I didn't know about that. I guess that's per level too. That's pretty neat. So, my bad, they don't get faster. I thought they did. Yeah, they do. They get 2% of most stats. So at 10, that'd be 20%. So it's probably speed. So, let's talk about what you can do with this trade slave. Let's go ahead and zoom in and show you its neat little cloak. So, we can open its inventory, see all its gear. Yay, gear. We can check its status report again like we just did. It has 22,944 out of... That's how much shields it has. It has 22,000 shields. That's more than I have. And it's using a slipstream. And that slipstream has a... What is the bank? 600 is its max bank. Original, like a base level. I'm using a misdirection, which is 5,000 max bank. And I have 2 defensive augmenters, which each give me 41% more shields. So you're seeing how this skill works. I mean, all 3 of my augs give me more shields, and I still have less than this thing that doesn't even have augs on it. So that's awesome. Shield augs really wouldn't affect it. Usually you'd want to put like capacity or speed augmenters on this thing. So let's talk about what we want it to do. Now, because I don't have the programming skill, it's not going to have a huge amount of orders that I can give it. But we're going to go to this tab right here. Once again, pressing the X key to open this up. Edit orders. We can give it 21 orders. Now that's with my Merchant Fleet Master. Keep that in mind. That's giving me 17 additional orders. So you're going to have about 4, which means you could have it do something like this. Dock at Paxius Prime by... I don't know. Let's pick something that it won't have. It shouldn't have Tortuga, Pride, and Grog, but you can pick anything you want. And then have it dock at Celestica Secundus and sell Tortuga and Pirate Grog. Yay! Okay, there it is. And then we would need to give it some money. So we will give it 5,000 credits because that seems like a good number. And then make it follow orders. Look how fast it is. It docks, buys what it needs to do, and then flies down here, docks, and sells it. And that's going to fly back. And that's going to be its life. That's all it's going to do. It's going to do that until I change and tell it to do something else. Now, some of the cool things you could have it do is let's have it follow me. Let's expand upon the orders a little bit. Let's say we want it to do some other things. We want it to jump. What it's going to do is if you click that, it's going to open up this. Well, we want it to go to Bringed Stronghold. And we want it to dock at Gallows Cove. And, I don't know, sell the Tortugan Pirate Grog. So we can delete this, and then we can have it jump all the way back to Paxius. And then, because it's here, it's in a loop now. So it's going to dock at Paxis Prime. It's going to buy Tortugan Pirate Grog. It's going to jump to Paxis, jump to Risa, jump to Brigid Stronghold. It's going to dock at Gallows Cove, sell Tortugan, the Tortugan Pirate Grog, jump to Risa, jump to Paxis. Now this doesn't need to be in here. I don't know why that order is there. That's really weird. So it just needs to go to Risa, bring in Stronghold, dock at the Gallows, sell, jump to Risa, jump back to Paxis, and there we go. It's going to rinse and repeat. So now what we can do is have it follow the orders. So it's going to dock, and because it's so fast, I'm not going to be able to keep up with it. But we will try. Oh, it's so quick. I can't keep up with it. Go, little trade sleeve. So I'm going 104, and it's going a little bit faster than me. So it's probably going about $1.20, $1.30, which is pretty good. Pretty good. It's going to go in. It's going to fly in there. It's going to go up to the AI base, which I think is in this direction. It's going to dock, do its little business, and then come back. So as you can see, there it is. It's docking. It's going to come back. Now you don't need to follow it around. It will still do its orders without you needing to be there to hold its hand. The only thing you need to hold hands for is the combat slaves, because sometimes they don't do what they're supposed to do, and that's very frustrating. Now the cool thing about the combat slaves, I'm going to go ahead and mention this. If you set it on fight enemies, what it's going to do is it's going to attempt to pick its own target. This can be good and bad in certain situations. If you're fighting a lot of things and you've got a couple of really strong combat slaves, then that's good. They can do whatever they need to do. And typically that's okay. I'd rather them focus fire personally, but that's just me. It keeps your DPS constant on one thing, and that's good. So now our slave's going to go up there and do that. Alright, so we have successfully made a trade slave and a combat slave. So I hope you guys enjoyed this video. I will continue to make more videos if you want, so leave a comment, make some suggestions. Thumbs up if you enjoyed the video, thumbs it down if you didn't enjoy the video. You know, keep it real. This is ZipperX5, signing off.